Riv, I'm curious to see how you feel about this because, I feel like these playoffs, when the player that you haven't been the highest on has a poor performance, whether it be Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, you're right there. You're right there, front and center.
I don't think when Ant shits the bed, I say too much.
Well, it doesn't happen too often.
It's happened a lot the last 6-7 games.
No, it actually hasn't happened too often.
No, it's actually happened a shit ton.
Game 1 and game 2 against Dallas, yes. Game 3 and game 4,
that was
he's been
3
great.
days ago.
Game 3 and game 4, he's been great.
Yeah, but game 7, Denver, shitty. Game 5, he wasn't that good either.
He's played 15. Bless you. He's played 15 playoff games this postseason. I think maybe about like
6 of them.
5 of them have been bad.
His splits are still amazing.
Yes.
They're amazing.
No, for sure. Phoenix carries it.
No,
he had a stinker against Phoenix. He did. Game 2.
Does not matter.
He had one stinker.
His true shooting percentage for the playoffs is still 60%.
For sure.
Oh, yeah, he's been arguably the most efficient player in the playoffs. I mean, I'm just curious.
Do you know Luka has more playoff games under 35% than over 50%?
Tatum has a higher true shooting percentage than him.
Well, them first couple rounds, he was underwater.
Against Denver, where Phoenix was carrying Anthony Edwards splits. Against Denver, Ant-Man averaged 28, 5, and 6. 50% from the field, 37% from 3, 85% from the line.
You saw some stinkers, though.
Game 7 was a stinker.
Okay, but I'm just saying he was great against Denver.
Game 5,
I didn't disagree with you.
Wasn't Game 5 the Suns stinker also?
No, you said he didn't have too many stinkers. That's when I was like, that's cat.
I don't think he has. I mean, if you're great 10 of your 15 playoff games, I mean, what the hell?
What do you mean? He had 5 or 6 stinkers. He had 1 against Phoenix. He had 3.
Here's the
Denver?
reason why we can live with it, because overall he's been amazing and he's 22.
Yes.
I mean, overall he's been one of the best players in the playoffs.
But if you break it down to his last 8, he hasn't been great.
I don't know.
After the last 2 games,
there's so much pressure on him to do everything on offense. Unless he's having real stinkers like Game 2 versus Phoenix, I can't be too mad at him.
You know what's weird about this Anthony Edwards
He's 22.
thing?
He's 22.
MJ 2.0.
You know what's weird about this Anthony Edwards
thing? He's not Michael
thing
Jordan. No disrespect to Anthony. It's just like
if he
not
actually
his fault.
If he actually would have gotten eliminated in the second round, the talk around his playoff perception would have been more positive
for sure
than it is negative. Even though in half of the Maverick series he's been great. Game 3 and Game 4 he's great.
He's been great. The turnovers have not been great.
But I'll tell you what, Joel, that comes with the territory because Tatum gets brought down because he hasn't won a championship, and other guys get brought up who don't make as many runs.
Tatum is also 3 years older. He's been in the league for 3 years. And
we can even compare him to his peers. Like there's not a lot of his peers who don't have a ring. That is, of course, who have as much playoff wins and success as he does.
Another reason he's getting knocked down is because his team was favored to win. You knock down the reigning champion. You go down 0-3 in 2 of those 3 games.
Yeah, this
At
was a
that
tough
point,
matchup, though.
You did not play well.
I think he's getting knocked down because people compared him to names that you shouldn't really be compared to.
I still think he's getting respected, though.
No, he is getting respected, but I'm saying the criticism stems from what Riv just said.
Calling him Michael is ridiculous.
The media, there's all Michael Jordan, comparisons, Kobe Bryant comparisons, all-time great comparisons, and you can argue if he's been propped up too early. I don't think Anthony Edwards has been propped up too early at all. I think it's actually just in the nick of time.
I can also argue that people came into this series saying that Anthony Edwards was the best player in the series.
I think that was dumb.
That was wrong.
I think that was dumb. I mean, nobody should be saying that.
They had him as the second best player in the playoffs behind.
Well, who
Nikola
did?
Jokic.
ESPN? I
believe
know.
It's The Ringer.
Oh, I think that's stupid. Yeah, I know. They created a list that was like young superstars that you want to build around for the future.
But they also said best players right now, and they had him number 2.
Well, maybe
That's
they
crazy.
said maybe they meant that as like
In the
who's
playoffs.
playing
Correct.
the best in the playoffs. That's valid after the Denver series and after what Luka did against OKC. That's valid. But no, Luka was always the better player, and I think that's ridiculous. Any reasonable expectation for Anthony Edwards this season, he met.
Oh yeah.
Make an All-NBA team, he did that. He made All-NBA second team, which means which means Anthony Edwards was one of the 10 best productive players in the NBA this season. He was a top 10 player this season when you take into account games played and production, when you combine them. Win a playoff series. He won 2. He's in the conference finals. The last time the Timberwolves were in the conference finals was 2004. Heck, the last time the Timberwolves won a playoff series was in 2004. That was 20 years ago. So this 22-year-old just led the Timberwolves to a conference finals in the team's first playoff win in 20 years. After 13 seasons without making the playoffs, after all those years without winning a playoff series, and he's averaging 27, 7, and 7, 48% from the field, 38% from three, with 440-point playoff games in his career, which ranks second all time, only behind Luka before age 24. And he's had back-to-back 40 balls in these playoffs, and the only player under 23 has done that has been Kobe Bryant. So Anthony Edwards has done some historic stuff, and on defense, he has a 39.5% defensive field goal percentage. He held Jamal to 30% from the field. And this series, when he's guarded Luka, he's holding him to 34.8% from the field.
Tell him to guard him more.
Ant is shooting 57% in the clutch, 50% from three in the clutch. He's been one of the most clutch players in these playoffs. He dominated a Kevin Durant and Devin Booker-led team. He beat the defending champions in a 7-game series, down 3-2, won 2 games in a row. And you can argue, him or Jokic, who performed the best in that series in totality, that could be a toss-up. And this is all at 22 years old. And the defenses he's faced in the playoffs this far in his career, Grizzlies 4th in defensive rating, Nuggets 15th, Suns 13th, Nuggets 8th, Mavericks 18th. Ironically, the best defense is the lowest one defensive rating-wise. That's an average defensive rating of 11.6 in his playoff career. And in his first 26 playoff games in 4 seasons,
11.6 not okay?
That's a very good defense.
That's not something. I think what he's saying is this is respectable defenses. It's not elite, but you don't throw these numbers away.
Gotcha.
First 26 playoff games in first 4 seasons, Anthony Edwards is 6th all-time in points per game. Second all-time since 1972. Only player over him is Luka Doncic. Number 1 in true shooting percentage amongst all 20-point-per-game scorers, which is a sample size of 25. Third in box plus minus behind Luka Doncic and LeBron. Third in game score, which is a stat that Basketball Reference calculates to see who had the best performances. Third behind Luka and Hakeem Olajuwon. He wasn't propped up too early. People are excited about him, and rightfully so, because he reminds us of former all-time great shooting guards, whether it is Jordan, whether it is Kobe, whether it is Dwayne Wade. Mm-hmm. That does not mean that every step of his career should be compared to them, but it is acknowledging that right now we might be witnessing one of the best, if not the best shooting guard of our era's career just begin, and thus far, he's been exceptional, and he's been exceptional all playoffs long. He's a superstar. That's what he is. His game in the playoffs has shown us that. His marketability, he's generated the most views on social media amongst any NBA player these playoffs. His sneakers are sold out. I mean, everything you want in a superstar has been packaged into him. And he's not MJ. He's not Kobe. But he's Anthony Edwards, and that's good enough. And it is the potential to be the face of the league. When this playoff run ends for Minnesota, I am not going to come away from it less confident in Edwards being one of the best players in the NBA, if not a soon-to-be face of the league. I feel more confident in that. So I think he's been propped up. Some people have gotten carried away. That's fine. That comes with the territory. It happens with every young player. But it has been deserved. It has been deserved.
I do remember sitting here hearing that he could be a top 20 player all time. He's still young. He's 22 years old. I'll say this. I was wildly wrong. 111 would be one of the best defenses in basketball this season. You would be a top 3, top 4 defense. So I just wanted to make sure I gave him that respect. But Anthony Edwards is sensational. There's nothing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you misinterpret me?
No, you said 111 defensive rating.
No,
in
I
my
said
mind.
an average defensive rating of the teams, 11.6. So the ranking would be 11.6.
Correct, which is what I would say. It would
Yeah,
still be that would be an amazing defense still, because top 3 this season was 108 with Minnesota, 110 with the Boston Celtics, Orlando 110, and then next right there is 111.
I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying,
Am I slow?
A little bit.
Got it.
what I'm saying is that, so the Suns were the 13th best defensive rating. This number is the defense. Yes.
There we go.
So like the 12,
111.
yes.
That's on me. That's
So
on
it is
me. That's on me.
11.6, like closer to the 12th best defense.
Got
Yes.
it. Apologize.
Yes.
Of course, Anthony Edwards is amazing. I'm not going to knock him for his first time being in the biggest moment that he's been to in his career, and he's had some struggles along the way. But for a majority of this playoff run, we've seen him be nothing short of sensational. Like I mentioned already, for this playoffs, 60% true shooting, 47% from the field, 38% from 3, 28 points. I mean, dude, he's been special. Joel already went over every single stat that there is to say about Anthony Edwards. He spoke 100% sound. He's young. He's doing this on a team that has had almost no success for 20 years now. Like you mentioned, 2004 was their last time they had a taste of what playoff success was. So for Anthony Edwards to be the first Minnesota Timberwolf to get over that hill and to play at this high of a level with his co-star being as inconsistent as he is, and with the other guy who's supposed to be the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, who has had his moments throughout this playoffs of being a great player, offensively, he's such a liability because he can't hold on to the basketball. Obviously, he hasn't been that great. Just as a whole, anything offensive related, the fact that he still continues to put on performances and is willing to die on his sword the way that he is, it's a matter of attitude. It's a matter of determination, and it does not matter what the end result is. He's going to have endless confidence in himself. And what more can you ask of a 22-year-old who's playing at this high of a level? You got to give him his respect. You can throw all the jokes you want. I'll be the first to say, if you put Michael Jordan and Anthony Edwards' name together, you're an idiot, and you're setting the kid up for failure. But you did the same exact thing with Jason Tatum and Kobe Bryant. You did the exact same thing with Devin Booker and Kobe Bryant. And now these are two of the players that get shit-talked the most, even though, like Joe mentions, every time we talk about the Boston Celtics, Jason Tatum's one of the better playoff performers that we have. Devin Booker, over these last couple of playoffs, has been one of the best playoff performers outside of closeout games, of course, where he was injured against the Nuggets. And then the year before that, Dallas Mavericks just embarrassed him straight up. But he had 240 balls in the finals himself. He averaged over 30 points in last year's NBA run. But again, when you put them next to all-time great players, you're setting these kids up to fail. Don't do that with Anthony Edwards, please. Let's not waste what can be one of the faces of our league.
Yeah, and I don't look at if you lose to Dallas Mavericks, which they're down 3-1, they were down 3-0, it's most likely. That's not a failure. You know, you're not going into that Dallas series. I think we all picked Minnesota. I think you said they were betting favorites, but I thought this was like a 7-game series. I really thought this would go either way for sure. And Minnesota has a team where they're matchup dependent. I know they just beat the Nuggets and they got this insane amount of hype, deservedly beating the defending champions. But I think we've seen in this series that they're matchup dependent, just like 99% of teams in the NBA are. Very rarely do you find a team that can really go toe-to-toe with any way a team is constructed, because that's usually the two teams that represent each other in the NBA Finals. So when I look at this Dallas series, this might be the worst offense Ant is on for the rest of his career. Whether it's Jaden McDaniels improving from three, whether it's Cat having a positive regression in the playoffs like he had in the second half of this past game, whether it's getting more shooting and offense around him. Like I mentioned earlier, Riv, it's very hard for me to say Ant had just a flat-out stinker unless he's shooting 30%. He has like 7-8 turnovers. Because the amount of pressure that I see on him damn near every single time, especially in the half court when they can't get out in transition, he's their offense. It's very difficult for Mike Conley to get consistent offense. Naz Reid can get his from here and there, but he is the main conductor of this offense. And at 22 years old, to go up against a really strong defense in the Dallas Mavericks, to be expected to score the most on anyone on the team, to be expected to play one of the best defense, you and Jaden McDaniels, to expect you to make the most out of anyone on this team, let alone you're doing it as a superstar at 27, 28 in your prime. You're doing this at 22. You get a pretty big kind of leeway where I'm like, if you could even take this, you got your one game. That's what I asked for. Get one. You're Ant Edwards. I think you're legitimately a top 10 player in the NBA. Get your one. Anything you do now on top of this is just extra. If you could push it to 6-7 games, I can't even imagine the narrative that flips before both of these players, before Luka and for Anthony Edwards. But right now, I just think we're seeing, since Minnesota's losing, and since Ant has had a couple of bad games, shooting-wise, like shooting efficiency, especially in games 1 and 2, he just goes from the super high, everyone props him up, to kind of the super low, where like you get the Chipotle memes of him out there and just saying like he's whacking, and you're not really finding that happy medium. I don't know if I'm, after this playoff run, putting him in like my top 5, but he's not going to be ranked at 20th either, right? So I think there's somewhere in the middle Ant's going to end up. But again, the opportunity's in front of him. You push this to 6-7 games, you have another 30 ball, you have 35, damn near a triple-double last night. You're just adding on to what you've already accomplished at such a young age.
I don't really know. Based on what you said, I don't know if you're a happy medium either. Yeah, I don't know. Because in one spectrum, you're saying he's a top 10 player, which I probably agree with you.
He'd probably be 10, to be fair.
If you're saying he's a top 10 player, you're saying he's a superstar in the league, you're saying he's one of the best in the league, then you can't sit here and say, well, I'm going to also give him this leeway, and you can't. If you are a superstar, you're a top 10 player in the league, whether it's Embiid, whether it's Tatum, whether it's Kawhi, whether it's Steph, whether it's fucking LeBron, who's accomplished everything that there is to be accomplished, you still have to get critiqued. You can still have a stinker. I promise you it's okay. And I don't think his stinkers have been more his efficiency. I think it's really just the fact that when he's not also scoring, his off-ball defense has been dog shit. His playmaking down the stretch especially has been horrendous. It's not just, oh, you're not shooting the ball away. You were doing that at an exceptional level, but when you're not doing that good, then everything else that you're not doing is starting to be magnified. So I think a happy medium needs to happen, because we've also had the people who are calling him MJ, calling him Kobe, saying in the first round, what if he can go on a D-Wade run? He didn't even make the WCF yet. So there was a bit of this too far pushing. I think you can have a proper conversation about Ant-Man, which I think is along the lines of top 10 player, top 12, like however you want to fit it. He's definitely put himself into superstar category, because, you make the WCF. It is hard, but I do think they missed an opportunity. I do believe that, because you're saying the team could get better. Cat's on the books for 55 to 60 million.
Offensively, they could, I think, just better spacing at a
Maybe.
minimum.
I mean, Mike Conley doesn't plan on retiring next year, and if he does, you don't have a shit ton of money. You don't have a shit ton of
Then you gotta
draft
go out there and
picks.
get a lead
Nas
guard.
Reed has to get paid
Yeah.
soon.
Let me ask
Rudy
you this, though.
Gobert's on the books.
I don't mean next year. I don't even mean the next 2 years. But Ant is so young that we're going to see different. Assuming he stays there, we're going to see
Sure,
just different
sure.
versions of these
I'm very
Wolves teams
curious
that
to see
are
the
going to
next one.
compete
Yeah.
for championships if he's on the team.
When's the last time a player that's been 22 years old has a legit case to be a top 10 player in the league?
Kobe. Tim Duncan.
Well, I'm thinking sooner than that. I'm thinking sooner.
Okay, John Morant,
Ja Morant.
I
Trey
think that's
Young,
fair. I think the last one, like, legitimately would probably be
Jason
like Luka.
Tatum.
Jason Tatum
I
at
don't think Tatum
22.
was pushing top 10.
He didn't make an All NBA team yet. It was until his 23 years.
It might have been
23
Trey.
year season.
I'm a year off. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been Trey.
That was the first year he took off, though, because the second year when Kyrie and everybody came back, he had to take a backseat. Then his third year, he took off, and he was an all-star.
Well,
Yeah,
Kevin
John Morant,
Durant.
his year 22, his first year, he averaged 27,
Yes.
7, and 6.
Yeah,
First year, he was MVP, was 7th.
And that was
All-NBA
the year-
second team, All-Star, MIP.
That was the year that they lost in the first round. They
No.
made the second round.
That
That was the year they beat
lost to-
Minnesota,
yes,
and then
and they lost
he
to
had the
Golden
40
State.
balls against Golden State.
I don't think nobody said nothing about Ja at that point.
Top 10 though after that
wait.
season.
No,
After-
I'm
yeah,
not
for sure
talking about
they
top 10. I'm talking about real, legit
Criticism-
critiques.
You couldn't criticize him. How
No,
could
they
you criticize
critiqued him after Minnesota. He didn't play well against Minnesota, but then he made it up in a couple games against Golden State.
That's why I agree with
And they
you,
critiqued on
Dels.
his injury.
Right now, Anthony Edwards is playing with house money. This was the first year of real, legit expectations, and you met him. You only start getting heavily critiqued after this point, unfortunately. Like the Kings, for example. The Kings, nobody cares about the Kings. They make the playoffs. Everybody cares.
Now it's
They buy in. It's a
expectations.
great season. Now, exactly, you're expecting to make the playoffs again, and that's why this year was a failure compared to last season. There's a different type of excitement. The real criticism with Ant's going to come next year, because next year, after playing with Team USA, he's expected to take another leap in his game. I mean, that's what he got to do. And that's when the real expectations will start. That's why, even when it comes to Tatum got 3 more seasons on Ant. And in those 3 years, a lot of expectations can build up. Same thing with SGA. This year, OKC was playing with house money. Even though SGA is older than everybody else, yes, SGA also had to prove that he could play like a superstar in the playoffs, but I think Ant has also shown that he can do that.
He's been doing that, though.
Yeah.
That's why I feel as if this year Ant's just playing with house money. And listen, I understand that MJ Kobe comparisons can get a little wild, but that's not realistic. That's not realistic. And not every single stat or accolade or path has to mirror those careers for it to be successful or not successful.
You're a 2-guard, unfortunately.
Those are the guys.
Those are the guys. When point guards come in, Trey Young, what was his comp coming in? What was he getting compared to? Steph, Dame, St. John Morant, who was he
Facts.
getting compared to? You get compared to the top of the guys when you're one of those guys.
Facts that when Trey Young made the ECF, he was on top of the world.
Somebody at his desk said he was better than Steph. I remember that.
Yeah, he led that year in points and assists, total
clear
points
as
and
day. I
assists.
remember it.
More reliable for sure.
2 months later,
More
flipped.
reliable.
That's
for
how
sure.
quickly things could change. Trey Young is top of the game. 2 years later, he's looked at sometimes as a negative asset.
Oh, yeah.
That's because expectations change.
Ant Edwards, they had a great run this year. What happens next year? They have a key injury, or they struggle a bit in the regular season.
Or they
Now
just
they're
lose
4
in the
seed, and they
playoffs,
just
yeah.
lose. And now all of a sudden, 2 years from now, Ant Edwards doesn't look like Ant Edwards right
You
now.
can get hurt one time,
Yeah,
miss some
that's
time,
all
you're
it takes,
done.
bro.
They forget about you.
Yeah.
Shit, Jason Tatum might have been Fringe top 10 at 22.
He could have.
He might have been.
And what year was that? The
Went to his
2020,
bubble year?
2021
2020,
season?
2021. That was the
The
year
year
that he
after
dropped
the
50
bubble.
against the big three.
Yeah. Word. lost in the first round, but regular season, what did he put up?
26.
26.
He was
26 and
strong.
8.
Yes.
26
So wait, what was
That
your
a
question
bad-
for
bad
me?
Celtics
And that team was terrible.
What question? I mean, do you think Anthony Edwards has been propped up too early?
Oh, that was the whole. I think only when they go too far with the Kobe stuff. Like I feel like the two best shooting guards by far. Like they have such an insane gap on any other two guard, and then it's like you got 6 rings, 5 MVPs, 6 Finals MVPs.
So let's even take it down lesser than that, but still very high praise.
I think
You think he's the
D-Wade.
best shooting guard in the league?
He's there. We go.
I don't think he's the best shooting guard in the league.
Because we have a Would You Rather just 2 weeks ago. You picked him over Donovan Mitchell.
Of recency bias.
Okay. Okay.
You're flipping back.
And Devin Booker, by the way. You picked
I
him
know.
over
I think they're
both.
both better than him. I'm with
you
that.
think Don's the best too?
I do think
Okay, but
Donovan
at that time, which wasn't that long ago, you picked Ant over Devin Booker and Mitchell.
Yes.
So that's recency bias. You're taking that back.
Yes, I am taking
You
that
think Devin Booker and Mitchell are both better?
back. Yes.
It's 1A, 1B for me.
I don't think 2 weeks ago he played Boston.
No.
He definitely was playing Denver.
No, I'm talking about Ant.
Yeah. You're talking about Don.
I'm talking about Donovan. I'm sorry.
I mean, he played, 2 games?
The
He cooked,
three
don't get me
players
wrong.
are so interesting
three?
because each three are better at a certain skill set than the other. When it comes to passing and playmaking, I probably would lean Devin Booker.
Lost me.
Nah, it's Mitchell.
It's Mitchell
As
by
a
far. It's actually by
playmaker?
It's
far.
Mitchell, yeah.
He's the only one that can actually legitimately play point guard out of all three of them
I
consistently.
think Booker's a better offensive player. Like, he's a better scorer.
He's probably the best scorer of the bunch.
All right, so here we go.
Well, I think he's
clean-
a more
I can't
he's a
talk
more
for 2
versatile
seconds.
scorer.
You talking about WWE for 20 minutes? Can I get some time in here?
Okay, that's fine.
I guess the top back. Damn.
Anthony Edwards is the best defender of the three by far. When it
Finisher.
comes finisher, probably Anthony Edwards. Yeah. When it comes to scoring, I probably lean Devin Booker. Although you have Donovan Mitchell, who has
Donovan's a
unbelievable highs
flamethrower,
too.
Yeah.
It's just weird when you have the three. There's just an individual skill set that each of them excel at in their own way, but the best combination of what you would want in that, to me, is Anthony Edwards.